The word says, Jeremiah chapter 18, reading from verse number 1. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise, go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hands of the potter. So he made it again another vessel that seemed good to the potter to make it. Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, O house of Israel, cannot I do with you as this potter, saith the Lord? Behold, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are ye in my hands, O house of Israel. Thank you very much. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. The prophet Jeremiah, who gave his name to this book, lived and ministered in Judah during a time of heartache and suffering for the nation. A swift decline spiritually characterized the people who descended from the heights of revival to the depths of rivalry. The prophet Jeremiah, whose name means Yahweh's appointed or God's established, occupied at least 41 years from 627 BC. During this time, he suffered personal humiliation, rejection, and persecution by his own people. As a matter of fact, Jeremiah was dubbed the weeping prophet because he loved to cry. He would go to God from time to time, and he would cry, and he would complain, and he would bellyache, and he would tell God how much he tried to preach his words, and people would beat upon him and will say all kind of stuff. It got to a place one time where he was so upset, so mad, that he closed the Bible up and he said, I will never utter your word again. I will never preach another sermon. He turned and he started to walk away, but when he was just a few steps away, he said he felt something down inside his bones. It was like fire shut up in his bones. So he turned around and he picked up the words of God again and he started to preach. Despite the fact that he had to go through all of this, there is an unequivocal desire inside of him to preach, thus saith the Lord. And so God saw in him a man who would be true to duty as a needle to a pole. God saw in him a man who would stand up for right when the heavens fall. God saw in him a man who would cry aloud and spare not and show his people their sins. And so the words of God came to him saying, Arise, go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words. He's moved, church, with more than a sense of curiosity. And he went down to the potter's house and he noticed that the potter was working on his wheels. But the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hands of the potter. So he made it again another vessel. I'd like you to understand, if we can park here for just a second, that when you were created as a vessel for God. Oh, I need to talk to somebody inside the house. When you were created as a vessel for God. But ever since the inception of sin, it is blatantly obvious that the vessel has been marred. The young people forget the things they've been taught at home and prostitute their principles on the street. The vessel has been marred. The rapid growth of juvenile delinquency, which is responsible for more than 60% of our crime and violence, tells us that the vessel has been marred. We forget the things we've been taught at home and in church, and we go out in the world and do things contrary to the will of God. The vessel has been marred. The music that captivates our young men is despicable, disgraceful, and degrading. It constantly promotes sex, drugs, and violence. It turns the mind off, turns the body on, and looses the wild stallions of passion. The vessel has been marred. Young men don't want to embrace values anymore, but they seem to listen to the songs that are played on the radio, and so you will hear them walking up and down the street talking about, I'm so hood. I heard that from one of my members. I just thought, and And they will talk about that, and somehow they believe in their hearts that if they can just get with the talk of the day, that can make them into the man that they ought to be. But I stopped for a while, church, and I listened to the song that they're listening to, and the song says, I'm so good. I asked one of my members to explain that to me. What do they mean when they said, I'm so good? And they said, Pastor, you got to get with the times that we're in. And so when I listen to the next verse of the song, it says, I got this gold up in my mouth and my pants below my waist. I said to myself, that's more paradoxical than anything else I've ever heard in my lifetime. Because yes, it is true that you have gold inside your mouth. You have opportunities that you have not yet tapped into. But have you ever seen a young man walking with his pants below his waist? He's walking like a cripple, and he's holding his pants up. And so while he has the gold inside his mouth, he can never tap into, realize, and access the gold in his mouth when he's walking with his pants below his waist, because he has to focus his attention on holding on to his pants than grabbing a hold of the gold. I'm going to preach inside this place today. You see, being a real man is not equated with getting with the times and doing the things the world is doing. One young lady, y'all pray for me inside this place. I'm going to preach Jesus in a little while. She said to me, what kind of man are you? She asked me the question where I come from. That's the forbidden question. She said, are you gay? I said, no, I'm not. I said, why did you ask that question? She said, the only reason you could have all of this before you and did not access it is if you are gay. I said, no, my sister, there are some other reasons. She said, I've never seen a man before who could see this and refuse it. Let me tell you, church, she was all of that and more. But when she said, I've never seen a man that could see all of this and did not access it, I said, maybe you have not yet seen a man. Because the truth of the matter is, there are some other reasons aside being gay why it's not being accessed. There are reasons like integrity. There are reasons like character. There are reasons like the power of the indwelling Christ that is on the inside of you. That sometimes when you feel like you want to do stuff, you hear something saying, there is something within me that I can't explain. There is something within me that holds the rein. All that I know, great God Almighty, I've got something within me. But I didn't come to church to criticize you today. Oh no, that's the devil's sermon. You see, the devil wants to tell you all the bad stuff. He will walk around behind you all day long and tell you how much you're broken, tell you how much you've messed up. And if he can get to come to church and tell you the same thing, then the devil has got you told the same thing all week long. What kind of situation we would be in if the devil walked behind us all week long and say you're broken, and when we come to church the pastor look at us and say you're broken, so we hear you're broken.